And we're back with part 2 of the hooks for our latest adventure in the Biodynamics series. I'm Steve. I do a lot of the story and development for the Downbelow RPG system.
And I'm Ian, and I do the system. So, let's talk about that today. Let's talk about how you, as the GM, run the challenges to hook people into this adventure. And this is where this system shines, actually, because we're talking about investigation. Now, investigation is sometimes a problem in dice-based systems because many times you feel like people need to make a perception check, and if they fail that roll, how does the adventure continue?
The classic adventures include such things as the Call of Cthulhu Haunted House adventure, where everything hinges on the players finding the secret door in the attic. The DM decides that rather than showing the players a secret door in the attic regardless, they have to make the roll to find it or not, and if they don't find it, then nothing at all happens ever, and the adventure kind of fizzles.
There are some published adventures in Pathfinder Story Paths, old 2nd Ed D&D adventure modules, the list goes on, that have had problems with this sort of investigation stops because people don't make the check thing. And we're not just talking homebrew, we're talking actual published.
Yep.
So it is a real problem of the medium.
Mysteries are hard.
In this game, because you set the stakes as the GM, you can decide to have a situation where the story proceeds, succeed or fail. Now, you could do this with dice as well, but since it's explicitly a transactional thing, you get to set it up, in this case, on a narrative basis of, if they succeed, then the story proceeds and they're in an advantage position, and if they fail, the story proceeds and they're in a disadvantage. So, what am I talking about? All right.
You beat me to the question.
Well, yes. Sorry, I got to monologuing. I'm sort of the antagonists here.
And that's why we run a timer on these things. Otherwise, we could talk for hours.
The idea in this adventure is you're trying to hook them in with weird stuff that's happening to people's behavior because of a soda pop. And this particular kind of Coke, or bingo soda, or whatever you want to call it, is tainted. And so first they have the opportunity to notice other people, whether professionally, if that's their gig, or just people around them. Why is this happening? And then they have the opportunity to notice when it happens to someone important to them. And then they have the opportunity to notice before it happens to them. So, when you are doing the intro to this adventure, you want to use up between 1 and 3 successes from every player character. So if you've got 5 people, you're going to use up between 5 and 15 successes out of the group. And if you've got 3 players, between 3 and 9. You want to make it scale to how much they have at their disposal so that different characters find out different aspects of the hook. And so on the minimum end, this means that you're going to have to make them make, say you've got an average group of about 4 players, about 4 connecting steps before they really twig to why people are acting this way.
So as a question, you just talked about the numbers to use if you're running this as a standalone introduction. What if you are either slowly revealing this as a natural part of an ongoing campaign, or using it as a natural segue from a concluding scene? How could you weave this into additional scenes? Does it add the 4 successes per scene?
In that case, it actually does a slightly different thing. Okay, so if you're weaving this into an ongoing thing,
such as in the course of your previous adventure, you see the people acting strange.
And I want to deal with this quickly because I'm running short and I want to also cover one more thing. So, if you're weaving this into an ongoing campaign and you don't want to do this all in one session, then give yourself a tracker. Decide how long it should take them, how many times they need to notice it before you drop them. This fits this whole pattern you've been seeing. And if the players don't twig to it earlier, then you drop the reveal on them when they hit the counter. but otherwise design your scenes with the number of successes and failures in mind that you would have anyway, and just put this information related to whatever plot you're running anyway. So, the last thing I needed to talk about for introducing this adventure as this adventure is the way to fail it forward, because obviously if they're succeeding, they're noticing, and if it comes to they might get affected by it, they can even use traits like I'm healthy or I have a cybernetic toxin extractor in my liver that can have them not be affected by it and somehow realize that that's different or whatever, or realize what was trying to affect them maybe. They feel a little funny but not as bad. Failing it forward, though, the ultimate fail it forward is if they don't decide to notice the other people, then if it's their job to be noticing this sort of thing, they might have some professional repercussions, like their boss saying, hey, I asked you to do something about this, what's being done about it? Or, hey, I've been getting these reports, why haven't you been keeping this from getting to my desk? If they aren't professionally involved, it might not really be that big a thing if they don't notice it happening to other people who aren't connected to them. So then it hits people who they care about. And then if they don't do anything, it's going to cause bad things like injuries or other bad fates for those people. And if they still don't do anything, then they get affected. And if they don't want to investigate it after it affects them, I don't know how you're going to hook them in, because
run a different adventure.
You've literally just had the player characters have control of themselves taken away because they failed at an action and not want to do anything about it. At which point, well, we'll talk about that more in the connective tissue, because the different adventure you're going to be running is actually still part of this adventure. It's just a very different take on it. So next time we'll see you with results that can happen after the hook, depending on the way the players go.